Davina says, geez whiz, Tony, you're up out of bed early, and she's still in bed with the kids. She's having a blissful time, apparently. Well, that's good. Happiness is important.
That's because she's watching us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael had a.
We wanted to call this session In Bed with Tony and Luke, right? So, but anyway, we were told by our advisors that was not appropriate.
Absolutely. And Michael's having a bit of a laugh about a whole day or week to talk about the other side or the partner in the relationship that's maybe holding you back as well. And he actually said spot on, Tony. I think that's actually a big point, and maybe we can go on to that through next week. But just to really highlight, through my experience of trying to get those 15 properties in 2 years, when I left my job, my wife was like, and I think, Tony has probably got a similar example here. What if it doesn't work? And I was like, there was no other thought process in me that it doesn't work. I think I had in the back of my mind somewhere, I was like, well, if it doesn't work, I've got strata management. Always can get a job in that. I can go back to that if I want. But it was kind of like, 0.0001% that I would even consider that option of going back. So it was always that forward direction. And that sort of leads me into the next subject. What are people thinking about day to day? Are they thinking about going backwards or thinking about going forwards? Are they looking backwards or looking forwards, Tony? What are your thoughts and feelings around that idea?
They're looking backwards. They're looking backwards.
How far back, mate?
And
how far back?
Well, it could be yesterday.
And what does
it doesn't
this
matter
create
how
for
far
someone?
back. Could be for good. Nothing. It creates nothing because it doesn't help them move forward. What it does is create stress and angst, frustration, because they're looking backwards. Even if you look back 5 minutes, it doesn't matter how far backwards you look. You can't change that moment.
I'm thinking about going to the pool after this. Just to get off topic for a second, but we like to mix it up here on the Sunday sessions. I know some people in bed. I'm here in Las Vegas with 45-degree heat, and we're talking Sunday mindset sessions with Tony Meredith, Luke Moroney.
That's it.
Tony, what's the whole damage to someone if they're looking backwards and not forwards? And how long does this last? What do people need to, crack out of this situation where they're going backwards?
Well, how long does it last? It lasts as long as they want it to. What does it prevent them from doing, achieving their goals? It's very simple. Drive a car, you look through the forward windscreen, it takes you in a forward direction. If you sit there and look in the rearview mirror, you crash. You end up having an accident. Really simple. Take that analogy into your life. Keep looking through the forward windscreen. Keep looking at what you want. But I just want to touch on a point that you made before around you were focusing on primarily on what you wanted, but a small percentage on what you didn't want. I had a very negative example that I want to share with people back in 2004 and 5, where we purchased an ice cream cafe. I think I've shared this here before.
Hey, before you get into that, it's so appropriate that you brought that up, because apparently in the US this week sometime it's National Ice Cream Day. And I heard that on the radio.
Which day?
I think it's on Sunday or something.
Yes.
It might be actually tomorrow, like US time, which is today in Australia.
Fantastic.
It's actually National Ice Cream Day. And I heard on the radio, I'm like, Tony Meredith, eat your heart out. Literally, eat your heart out. Mind the pun.
We better hurry up and finish up. I'm going to go home and celebrate with some ice cream. So my point was, I want to go back. My point was that we had an ice cream cafe. We lost $100,000 in 9 months. It was a disaster. But I remember saying to people at the time, if this doesn't work, I can always go back to my day job. If this doesn't, and I kept saying to people, if this doesn't work, you can always go back. And what I did on reflection when I look back, it's like I actually talked myself out of it. I self-sabotaged myself by saying, if this doesn't work, I can go back. So my point to that is, have a plan A and a plan A only. So
no plan B.
Plan B.
No plan B.
You have a risk mitigation strategy, right? So take property development. You want to mitigate your risk. There's too many zeros at play, okay? But then once you've got your risk mitigation strategy, you want to bottle it up and just park it over here, and now you just want to focus in that direction. And you only want to focus on that. And how do I make this happen? And when I have an obstacle, what have I got to do to solve it? How do I get around it? As opposed to, dwelling, etc. Now, why is it that people dwell? Because it's the emotion that's attached to that. They focus on the emotion, the feeling. They look back through their brain, their mind, and there's the negative emotion, and they focus on that. And that's why. And it causes them, it causes them all sorts of depression and stress, etc. What we need to do is we need to focus in a forward direction, focus on what you want. The reason why people aren't is because they don't believe that it can happen. We've just full looped this conversation. They don't have the certainty. I've said to you many, many times, if I'd love to play a game if we could guarantee people certainty, guarantee them, that they're going to do this, whatever that task might be. If they, give me $100,000 and I'm going to give you back 150 in 6 months' time, and it's certain, would you do it? And people wouldn't do it because they wouldn't believe it, because there's all sorts of skepticism, and I get all that. But it's like, if people were certain, the analogy is, and Napoleon Hill talked about this, 3 feet from gold. Most people will spend their life and finish their life being 3 feet from gold. That is, they've dug for gold, and they're just short. Now, if they knew that they were 3 feet from gold, they'd keep going. But they don't know. That's the beauty of it. You don't know that you're 3 feet from gold. There's faith, there's belief, there's a whole range of things that you've just got to keep pushing, persisting. Like your shirt says, be patient, keep going. Because if you knew that you were only 3 feet from gold and you dug 97 feet, you wouldn't stop. But you don't know. And that's the magic, that's the mystery of all this, is that you have to have belief and faith and a level of certainty that I am going to make this happen. And go back to your point earlier, you were going to make that happen in property investing because you'd seen others do it, and you said to yourself, why not me? And same with me with developing. Why not me?
Absolutely. Michael said, yeah, people suggest other things, and I stick to plan A, property, which is property for him, and sharpen my skills in it. So, that's vitally important. Michael often sends me messages, and we interact with each other about property investing, throw out thoughts and feelings about what we think's going on. And then, there's no right or wrong answers. It's opinions that are going on, but it does sharpen your tools. So it is about being around like-minded people. If you are struggling, the tools basically now to actually move you forward in a forward direction. Obviously, your focus is one thing. You can do things like Tony suggested, like I have done previously, putting some sort of message down in front of you where you go and see it every single day. And whether you actually look at it every day, the chances are that you'll get closer or achieve your goals if you look at it every day. And I think it's kind of like there's a proven strategy around that of goal setting. So the more you actually look at it and read it, and better chances are you're actually going to do it. So it just probably starts training your mind, doesn't it, Tony?
Yeah, it's a proven strategy in improving the subconscious mind. This all starts at the subconscious level. Consciously, people know what they should be doing. Subconsciously, we don't do it. Okay, and so what you're talking about there is some sort of a daily routine. And I'm a massive advocate for daily routines. I have a morning routine, but I don't care if you do it at lunchtime or at night. Do a daily routine. My daily routine involves visualizing, involves affirmation, saying things out loud, positive things out loud to myself that I can do things. Doesn't mean that I've got them right here and now, but I'm saying as if it's happening. I'm visualizing things as if I'm there. I'm creating an enormous amount of emotion. Go back to the point I said earlier about the negative emotion. I want to create some really positive emotion. And here's the thing with visualizing. The mind can't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined.
It's amazing shit,
let me say that
isn't
again.
it?
It can't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. If you can imagine your future self as clear as crystal and create emotion that is linked to that, your mind thinks that it's happening. And so it's about visualizing, it's about affirmations, it's about writing down your goals, reading your goals, go through a process. I have a long process that I go through a morning routine. You don't have to do as long as me, but just do something every single day. It's no different to Luke. You go and run a 7K every day, or someone who goes to the gym and they do it every single day. We need to apply the same principles to our mindset. Do something on your mind every single day. Build the muscle.
It kind of feels like for me that, it's kind of like a VR sort of thing, virtual reality sort of thing. You can sort of create that perception or a visual reality of where you're going to be. Do you feel like it's a little bit like that? And we're going to come into that VR world of creating that perception, and then we carry out that play because we're seeing and stimulated on our minds, because that could be part of our daily routine. That could be a 5 minutes visualization of putting ourselves in conversations with other people, putting ourselves in situations where we're doing that deal or getting that property development deal done. What do you feel around that, Tony?
Well, firstly, I have just got so excited by that idea. right? And here I am thinking, right, how do we bring this to life? How do we create
Great idea, actually.
this goal setting? It's a bloody terrific idea, mate. You should be running around in a desert hotel swimming more often. It's an amazing idea. So for people who are struggling to visualize, popping on your VR goggles and looking at your future self, I think it's phenomenal. You've got me all excited.
Maybe we can just do a thing around VR. Just like the forefront of VR is now. Like, how are we doing those deals together? How are we, transacting, seeing, maybe role-playing a little bit of like rejection and how that makes us feel. Because I think that actually brings us to the next topic of the idea about internal and external things that you're really struggling with. Like, what are those things? Yeah. Like, internally, what we think about ourselves. I know when I wake up in the morning and I don't really feel like going for a run or whatever actually happens, and I'm going to go a bit slow today, but when I get on the treadmill, I actually do better than I think. Then the whole thing about the outside, the judgments, the rejections, and all those sort of things that come to play for us. And this is what we've got to realize about, and it's how we respond, Tony. And I know you've got a lot of gold when it comes to this, and you're just waiting to get started.
Firstly, let me ask you, why do you get on the treadmill? You wake up, you don't feel like it. Why do you do it? I'd love you to share with the viewers.
Because I've held myself accountable. I've put it out there that I'm going to run every day this year, and I've told people that I'm going to do it, and it's within me. I was like, I want to prove it. I guess I want to do it for myself. I know it's a mind shift, massive thing. It's not about the health and whatever. It's actually a mind shift set thing that I'm doing to actually do something daily without stopping.
I love it. I love it. And the point to that is, I want to make this point, is that you don't always feel like doing it. In fact, you probably only feel like doing it about 20-25% of the time. Right? I'm going to take a generalization here. This is me. I only feel like doing things about a quarter of the time, but I think greater than I feel. Does that make sense? So if you're dictated by your feelings, you think about it in the morning, the alarm goes off, I feel tired, I hit the snooze button. I feel cold, I stay under the doona. Okay? And so it's about you're not thinking greater than you feel. What you have to do is you have to go, you know what? I've got a bigger purpose. I've got a bigger reason. You're holding yourself to account. You're telling the whole world that you're going to do these 7Ks for as long as you choose to do that. But it's for you as well, right? It's for you as well. You just happen to add some sprinkling of public accountability in over the top to help keep you honest.
Plenty of sprinkles, mate.
But that's fine. Do whatever it takes to get you moving, because clearly it's working, right? But the point is that you don't always feel like it. So stop being, not saying you, I'm saying people, stop being dictated to by your feelings, because you're only going to feel like doing something a quarter of the time. And think beyond that. Think beyond. You've talked about goals. We've talked about, not this morning, but previously, about your purpose or your why. Why are you doing these stuff? This is thinking bigger than you feel, right? You have yourself a goal to achieve set number of properties or do 7K running. It's a big goal. So when you don't feel like doing it, you say to yourself, come on, Luke, let's go. Let's get up. Let's keep moving. And I'm the same. And it's like, I don't have a choice. Right, I've told myself I don't have a choice in this. Sure, I have a choice, but in my mind I say I don't have a choice.
That's right.
And I've got to keep moving forward, and I've got to get up and keep going. And so these are the games that I play with myself in order to get myself moving forward. And it doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean that my life is bliss. In fact, far from it. But I'm constantly working on my mind to challenge myself to move in a forward direction.